Hey guys, tonight we begin with the remarkable life of a woman whose existence was part performance, part endurance, and entirely misunderstood by most of the Western world, the geisha. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are born in Edo, the bustling heart of Japan, full of tea shops, rice traders, wandering monks, and at least 4 people per block who think they're reincarnated warlords. You're a girl, which means your destiny is already narrowed down to 3 historically thrilling options. Marry someone dull, become a nun, and live with regret, or enter the okeya, the geisha house, and spend the next 2 decades pouring tea for drunk aristocrats while pretending it's empowering. You are 6. You still think bugs are interesting, and you have no idea that your parents have made a decision. You're going to be a geisha. Not today. Today, you're being walked through the streets in your best kimono, which is itchy and far too tight. But soon, very soon, your carefree life of snacks and naps will be replaced by a rigorous education in emotional suppression. The okeya looks more like a library, married a temple, and raised a child that grew up to be emotionally distant. The woman who opens the door is oken, the geisha housemother. She is the kind of person who can tell how much you're worth just by how you bow. You try to smile. She doesn't. Your parents bow deeply, say a few words, and leave you behind like a very polite hostage exchange. You have officially been handed over. You are not adopted. You are now property. Don't worry, you'll learn to curtsy through the trauma. You're now a shikomi. That's a fancy word for child who scrubs things. You will scrub floors, prepare baths, carry water, and occasionally cry into your sleeve. Silently, of course. Your job is to watch the geisha, never speak, and absorb everything by osmosis. You sleep in the hallway, you eat last, and you owe the house money for the rice you just spilled. The geisha themselves float past you like supernatural beings. Their hair is sculpted. Their steps are silent. Their gaze says, "Don't even think about breathing too loudly. You're just a walking sponge in wooden sandals, but you're watching, you're learning. And if your knees hold out, one day you too might glide through a room without being told to fetch the towels. Your days start before sunrise and end when your back stops functioning. You sweep tatami floors, stoke charcoal fires, wash kimono fabric that costs more than your soul, and fetch things. Always fetching slippers, water, tea, more water, the good sandals, the other good sandals. By noon, you've walked more than most samurai march in a year, and heaven help you if you make noise. Shikomi must be silent. Silent like a haunted house. Speak only when spoken to, and when spoken to, respond quickly, but not too quickly, or it's disrespectful. Also, don't look directly at the senior geisha unless they're looking at you, in which case you're now looking too much. Honestly, blinking is a political act at this point. You're taught nothing formally. There's no classroom. Your entire education is observation, humiliation, and repetition. You learn how to fold an OB by watching someone do it at the speed of light. You practice bowing until your spine files a complaint. You try not to cry during your 15th failed tea pour. But somehow you start to understand how they hold the fan just so. How laughter is timed like a drum beat. How walking is a choreography of toes and timing. You realize being a geisha isn't just about beauty. It's about precision, control, and having the social reflexes of a diplomat in a landmine factory. And yet, you're still just a shikomi. You're invisible until you're useful, and then you're still kind of invisible, but now with a rag in your hand. The older girls might be kind if you're lucky, or they might treat you like a walking cautionary tale. Either way, you keep your head down and your ears open. Because here's the secret. Everyone started here. Even the most graceful, impossibly poised geisha in the house once scrubbed this exact floor while being yelled at for drying chopsticks the wrong way. So you endure quietly, and you wait for your chance to stop mopping and start mattering. Now that you've mastered the fine art of carrying tea and not existing, it's time to upgrade your skill set. No, not dancing or playing instruments. Don't get ahead of yourself. First, you must learn how to sit for hours without fidgeting or breathing too enthusiastically. Welcome to posture training, the ancient, highly respected Japanese tradition of turning your knees into pretzels and your spine into bamboo. You kneel in Caesar, the formal sitting position where your legs are folded neatly beneath you, your back is straight, and your circulation quietly gives up. At first, your legs go numb after 3 minutes. Then they start whispering threats. After 10, your whole lower body has legally declared mutiny. But you're not allowed to shift or stretch or scream because geisha are graceful. They do not W's. They do not wiggle. They endure pain like it's an aesthetic choice. You also begin bowing constantly. There are dozens of ways to bow, each with subtle variations. A greeting bow, a gratitude bow, an apology bow, a please don't punish me for existing bow. You learn to lower your head to precisely the right angle, hold it for precisely the right number of seconds, and rise with a smoothness normally reserved for rice paper unfolding in a breeze. Of course, you'll mess it up. Everyone does. You'll bow too fast or too shallow, or horror of horrors. Touch the floor with the tips of your fingers at the wrong exact angle. Someone will scold you with the gentle intensity of a disappointed ghost. You also study how to sit during tea ceremonies. Your knees must remain folded even when your soul wants to escape your body. You must move like you are underwater. Slow, fluid, deliberate. If you sneeze, congratulations. You've just dishonored your ancestors. But somewhere between the cramping and the internal screaming, something happens. You start to hold your head higher. Your movements become quieter, more deliberate. You become less child, more shadow. This is where you begin to understand. Geisha training isn't about theatrics. It's about control over your voice, over your body, over how the world sees you. You're learning how to vanish beautifully. After years of floor scrubbing, knee torture, and developing the posture of a demure statue, you finally hear the words you've been longing for. You're ready to become a mo. It's like being told you've been promoted from ghost to ornamental human being. Congratulations! You are now a mo, an apprentice geisha, which means, ironically, the real suffering is just beginning. First stop, the hair. Your head will now be turned into a living sculpture. Professional hairstylists arrive with lacquer, wax, pins, and a worrying sense of calm. They twist your hair into the iconic Nihongami style, a towering complex arrangement that takes hours to create and approximately 1 poorly timed sneeze to destroy. And you can't sleep lying down anymore. No. You must use a takamakura, a wooden neck pillow designed to keep your head elevated so your precious hair doesn't touch anything, especially common sense. Sleeping like this is a test of willpower and neck strength. You get used to it, sort of eventually, maybe. Now comes the outfit. Your new kimono is an embroidered beast. It's gorgeous, heavy, and designed by someone who clearly hated shoulders. The sleeves are long enough to sweep a small garden. The obi sash is tied in an elaborate knot that sits halfway up your back and weighs about as much as a toddler. Getting dressed each day requires help, often from 2 or 3 other people who have memorized the ancient art of wrapping fabric around a human body until it's 75% kimono and 25% regret. Then there's the kazashi, your hair ornaments. These are beautiful, seasonal, and sharp enough to qualify as light weaponry. You wear them like a crown, but they also broadcast your rank and training stage. One wrong hairpin, and everyone in the room knows you've committed a fashion crime punishable by shame. As a miko, your job is to watch, imitate, and occasionally serve tea while dressed like a sentient cherry blossom. You're not allowed to speak too freely, laugh too loudly, or, heaven forbid, ask questions. You are art, not commentary. But despite the discomfort, the aching scalp, and the inability to sneeze near flames, you feel something else. You're not invisible anymore. People notice you, and not just because your outfit is visible from orbit. There's no single aha moment where you wake up and think, yes, I am now a proper apprentice geisha. It's more like a slow ceremonial promotion wrapped in silk, incense, and low-grade stress. But the official day you debut as a MO, that's different. That day comes with ceremony and pressure. Think of it as the Edo period version of a debutante ball, except instead of dancing and punch, there's kneeling, sweating, and at least 2 full hours of hairstyling with hot wax. You've trained for years, bowed more than a religious statue, and memorized the complicated way to pour tea without looking like you're pouring tea. Now, finally, you get to show your face, painted white, of course, to Kyoto's elite. And they are judging you politely, intensely, quietly, with folding fans. You wear your most elaborate kimono yet, layers of vibrant silk that cost more than your birth family's home. It's so long it drags behind you like a very expensive regret. Your obi is tied in the Durari style, a long trailing sash that screams, "Yes, I'm new here. Please admire my suffering." Your face is fully painted now, white rice powder from forehead to neck, red and black accents on your eyes, lips painted in a perfect bow, though only the bottom lip at first, because apparently rookie elegance is a half-lip kind of thing. You walk through the streets in your ubo, those platform sandals that double as medieval torture devices, while everyone turns to stare. Not because you're famous, but because you're a newly minted MO, and it's a rare sight. Also, you're walking very, very slowly. It's the only speed available. Then comes your misadashi, your formal debut ceremony. You meet clients for the first time, greet patrons, and perform for elders who remember when their necks still worked. Every step, smile, and sip of tea is a test. And failure isn't punished with yelling. It's punished with disappointment, which is worse. But somehow, you survive. You make it through the ritual, the performance, the parade. You don't trip, spill anything, or offend a dignitary. This, in geisha terms, is a massive win, and just like that, you're officially AMO. Half child, half porcelain icon, full-time performance piece. Being a mo comes with many responsibilities. Pouring tea, dancing, pretending not to hear creepy innuendos. But none of them compare to your most sacred daily ritual, the face. Your makeup routine is now a full-scale military operation. Step 1. Slather your face, neck, and chest in a thick coat of white rice powder, which smells like chalk, feels like glue, and somehow finds its way into your soul. It dries faster than your will to live and sets like plaster. Once it's on, you are no longer human. You are canvas. Step 2. Eyebrows. Yours gone, covered in powder, new ones drawn on with charcoal, thin, dark, and serious like they have a secret. Step 3. Eyes. You trace your lids with a mixture of red and black pigment, carefully applied with a brush so thin it could paint on rice grains. One twitch, and you've gone from elegant apprentice to haunted raccoon. And then the lips. As a junior mo, you're only allowed to paint the bottom lip. Why? Tradition. Also something vague about modesty and not getting too full of yourself. You paint it red, carefully shaped like a tiny bow. It's considered beautiful. It also makes eating look like a complicated art installation. Mistakes are not tolerated. Smudge your lip. Start over. Uneven eyeliner. Unacceptable. Eyeliner doesn't even exist yet. You're using powdered minerals mixed with spit and despair. Once you're done, you look in the mirror and see something both ancient and terrifying. A doll. A glowing white, fragile, beautiful doll with the core strength of a dancer and the daily calorie intake of a squirrel. But here's the thing. Beneath the mask, your learning power. This look commands attention. It says, "I'm tradition wrapped in performance, and I will judge your clumsy chopstick technique." The makeup isn't for vanity. It's for armor. It separates you from ordinary women. It tells everyone that you're here to perform, not participate. It also tells your paws that they are no longer needed. Hope you weren't too attached to breathing through your skin. You don't wear this face for yourself. You wear it so others forget you're only 15 and start treating you like art. At first glance, you might think the geisha's greatest tools are her beauty, her kimono, or possibly the sharp metal hairpin she keeps purely for decorative purposes. But you'd be wrong. Her real weapons are twofold: the shamisen and the ancient Japanese art of making awkward men feel interesting. You learn the shamisen, a 3-stringed instrument that looks like a weaponized spatula and sounds like a melancholy banjo. Playing it requires grace, rhythm, and fingers that don't cramp like salted squid. You practice for hours daily, producing noises that begin as cat in distress and gradually evolve into respectable ambience. Your teachers are merciless. 1 missed note earns you a sigh. 2 missed notes earns you a raised eyebrow. 3 missed notes, and you're sent back to tune the instrument until it sounds less like a kitchen accident. But music is only half the equation. The other half, conversation. You're not just learning how to talk. You're learning how to talk around things, how to flatter without lying, how to suggest without promising, how to keep a man engaged in dialogue without letting him realize that you're mentally organizing tomorrow's dance routine while nodding politely. You practice subtlety like it's a martial art. If a client mentions he's rich, you smile softly and change the topic to the moon. If he tries to flirt too boldly, you compliment his taste in sandals and offer more sake. You are the queen of graceful deflection. And oh, the poetry! You memorize hundreds of poems about flowers, rivers, and heartbreak. You can quote Basho while pouring tea and still have enough bandwidth to notice who's had too much to drink. All while keeping your back straight and your voice 1 octave higher than your internal screaming. By now, you've realized that being a mo isn't about entertaining. It's about managing emotion, your own, your clients', the room's. You read moods faster than you read syllables. You know when to laugh, when to pause, and when to pretend you didn't hear something horrifying. This is your new life. Half musician, half therapist, all performance, and the scary part, you're getting really good at it. Ah, yes. The Danner. The word sounds elegant, vaguely mysterious, and just polite enough to hide what it actually means. A wealthy male patron who supports your career with the strings of obligation woven so tightly they could double as a noose. You hear about the concept early on. A Dana, they say, is a respected man who appreciates the arts, funds your training, and helps with the extravagant costs of kimono, hair ornaments, and general survival. In return, you're expected to keep him company, make him feel important, and ideally not run screaming into the night. It's not romantic. This isn't a Jane Austen novel. This is a business transaction wearing a silk robe. You don't get to choose your Danner. The house chooses. Your Ocarin weighs reputation, wealth, and social connections like a sommelier sniffing out aged insecurity. You, meanwhile, are told to smile and pretend the man in front of you, who is 40 years your senior and breathes like a tired ox, is fascinating. Now, to be clear, not every Dana expects certain favors. Some are genuine patrons of the arts who simply enjoy the company of a well-trained, clever woman who can discuss poetry and politics without crying or interrupting. Others are not. The boundaries are vague, culturally unspoken, and the pressure is immense. You owe your house. You owe your future. You owe your knees, which are currently throbbing under another 10 pounds of fabric. And so you learn the art of emotional balancing. You keep things light, friendly, respectful. You become a master of making men feel adored while keeping your soul safely sealed behind a smile. If emotional labor were taxable, you'd bankrupt the shogunate. Sometimes it works out. A Dana might sponsor you for years, shielding you from financial ruin and providing just enough distance to keep things bearable. Other times you develop the lifelong ability to disassociate in real time while nodding at a story about grain taxes for the 15th time. Either way, the system isn't about love. It's about leverage, and the only way to survive it is to learn how to tilt the balance back in your favor, all while wearing 3 layers of brigade and pretending the room isn't on fire. One day, someone hands you a pair of shoes that look like small wooden buildings and says, "Put these on." They're called okobu, towering platform sandals made of solid wood with no right to exist. Designed not for comfort, but for ceremony, elegance, and possibly revenge, These sandals are worn exclusively by Mo, which means if you're wearing them, you're now expected to float, not walk, across the streets of Kyoto without wobbling, tripping, or bursting into tears. The Okobo make you taller, statier, less human. You no longer walk like a person, you glide like a shrine procession. The goal is to move with such grace that no one notices you're actually fighting for your life with every step. They have no cushioning. Of course they don't. This is a Daito, Japan. Your feet throb, your calves scream, your balance becomes a full-time job. God help you if it's raining. Slippery obo on stone streets turn every trip to a tea house into an Olympic-level obstacle course. The sound they make, a sharp clop-clop, is deliberate. When a MO walks down the street, people know that rhythmic click is your new soundtrack. It's beautiful, it's traditional. It also lets everyone in a 5B block radius know where you are at all times. Subtlety overrated. Eventually, your legs adjust. Sort of. You develop muscles in your ankles that you didn't know existed. You learn to fall with dignity. You perfect the art of turning corners slowly, gracefully, and with just the right amount of theatrical foot placement. And just when you think you've mastered it, someone adds a 12-pound OB to your waist and sends you to a client dinner with 3 flights of stairs. Wearing oko is a rite of passage. It's also a public reminder that you're still an apprentice. Full geisha wear flatter shoes because by then they've earned the right to not suffer so visibly. You're still earning it. One wouldn't stomp at a time. Let's clear something up. A geisha is an entertainer. You perform, you dance, you sing, you pour sake, with elegance and flirtation so subtle it could pass for weather. You are a walking work of art whose power lies in restraint. You say just enough, you reveal just enough. You exist in the sacred space between admiration and distance. A courtesan orin is a high-class companion trained in the art of pleasure. Their job involves layers of performance too, but with one distinct difference. Theirs usually ends in a bedroom. Yours ends with applause, a bow, and sore feet. The visual confusion doesn't help. Both wear elaborate kimono. Both wear ornate hairstyles. But here's your cheat sheet. If the obi is tied in the front, she's a courtesan. Quick access. If it's tied in the back, she's a geisha. Slow exit, you're welcome. But none of that matters when you're in a room full of men who watched one bad movie and think geisha is code for exotic invitation. So, you develop a skill, the art of politely correcting someone while making them feel like they taught you something. It's linguistic aikido. You say things like, "Ah, how kind of you to be curious." Our traditions are quite different from that. Smile, sip, redirect, repeat. You'll give this same explanation 100 times in your career. It will never stop being necessary. But each time you do it with grace, you reassert the boundary, one smooth sentence at a time. Because being a geisha means never losing your cool, even when someone mistakes you for something you're not. Again, as a mo and eventually a geisha, you are expected to master music, dance, etiquette, and the delicate skill of looking delighted while listening to a man talk about rice tariffs for 2 hours. But your most useful and least taught skill, saying no without ever using the word no. See, you can't just reject someone outright. That would be rude and worse, ungraceful. No one pays a geisha to be blunt. Your value lies in subtlety, in suggestion, in the ability to pivot away from a proposition like a butterfly in getter sandals. Let's say a client gets bold.